All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a supplemental session of The Filter. We today are going to talk with our man, Griff Green. Unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you will know that the last 24 hours in crypto has been a wild ride, to say the least. Uh, about two and a half weeks ago, Ethereum and the DAO were on top of the world. Tens of millions of dollars were raised for the Distributed Autonomous Organization, a smart contract that was to show the way of the future, a an example of what Ethereum can do. And here we are a few weeks later, and I think it's safe to call it a tragedy of epic proportions for the DAO. And I know that the last 24 hours have been a wild ride for us spectating. You can only imagine how difficult it has been for the team behind the DAO, in particular, our man, Griff Green, and we are going to talk with him right now. Let me bring him in. Griff, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Griff, welcome, welcome. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Mittweida, Germany, actually at Christoph's mom's house. Christoph and Simon are, founders of Slockit, along with Stefan Twall, and we're basically based in Mittweida for now until, we were hoping to work for the DAO, but unfortunately that doesn't seem very likely now. But man, I have got to say, because I'm at Uma Yench's house, and she has been treating me like a superstar. It is so nice. These guys have it good. That's how you end up with nice people. You have an awesome mom. That's always consistent. So yeah,
Excellent,
just
excellent.
living it
You're,
up
you're,
at Uma's house.
you're getting some mom treatment during what must have been a very rough last 24 hours. Can you take me on a journey, if you will? How did you learn about this problem, and then what has
You
been
know,
happening over the last 24 hours?
Yeah, everything always comes down to the community. They've always been there to support us and help us through this. And of course, the attack was first noticed by, on the Slack, his name is Shorabit. I call him Mo. And he alerted me. I woke up and I was just looking through, on my phone, looking at what's going on the Slack. And I saw his message, and he said, "Hey, there's something weird going on with the DAO." He had checked a site, I think it was DAOether.ai, that the total supply was, tanking. Not the total supply, excuse me, the actual balance of the DAO was tanking. And so that was concerning, obviously. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I looked it up and saw that the total supply of DAO tokens did not match because I thought there was just some kind of huge split or something that I didn't know about. But when I saw that the total supply and the actual balance were not mixing, it was red alert, and in demon dialing everyone on the team. Obviously Stefan, he was still asleep. Simon, we were able to get a hold of him. Actually, Shorebit got a hold of him too. So we were both working on it together, and we got everyone involved. And then it was go time. We were talking to Vitalik and everybody involved, and it was really beautiful. Very quickly, probably within an hour of finding out about the thing, maybe two, there was a plan that was set. So it seemed we weren't sure if we were going to ever be able to stop the attacker. And so Vitalik and Christoph and Lefteris and all the geniuses in Ethereum decided to try to spam the network to slow down the drain of the DAO, and to present an opportunity for a soft fork and a hard fork to undo the damage that has been done. And so that blog post went out very quickly, actually. So I'm kind of speeding through the day. That blog post went out very quickly, and I always watch the markets. I'm a big fan of prediction markets, and like Martin from Gnosis, and of course a lot of people know about Augur as well. These are prediction markets that allow people who have money in the game to kind of predict the future. And really, stock markets and every kind of financial market is in itself a prediction market. And so
Indeed.
I was always watching the ether price and how it was reacting to things. And when Vitalik put out this plan to do a soft fork and then a hard fork and make sure all the funds were going to go back to the people that were being attacked, so that the attacker cannot be, so that the attacker does not win, the price went right back up. It was really amazing to see how quickly the market can react to things that Vitalik says.
Yes.
So then, but as the day went on, more people became involved, and a hard fork is a very scary word to people, especially in the Bitcoin world. And so even though Bitcoin's had many hard forks, and so has Ethereum, when as the discussion raged on, more people were like, maybe a hard fork is overdoing it. This is just one DApp. That is not, it's not like a specific problem with the Ethereum blockchain.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
but you're talking about a hard fork of the Ethereum blockchain. Is that correct?
yes. And so, but maybe I'll get into the hard fork once we get through the chronology of the day, because this is really fun. I'm recounting it in my own head, and I forgot all these things happened.
Yes.
It was only probably maybe a 19-hour day, but it seemed like it was 3 weeks.
Yes, you're in the time warp. But please proceed. Yes.
Okay, so as there's debate rolling on about whether or not the soft fork and hard fork is a good idea, things are getting DDoSed. I mean, Vitalik's blog post actually, I believe, was DOSed, and no one could even read it. It had to be reposted on Reddit by people that clicked the link before so many people clicked the link. And and I assume there's market makers that are doing crazy things to take advantage of this situation. These, the wild west of Bitcoin and Ethereum markets. But so then people were debating the hard fork, and while that was happening, we were analyzing the attack and trying to figure out, how did this happen, what happened. We were working with some of the brightest minds in Solidity space. I didn't get their permission to talk about whether or not they were whether or not I should say their names, that they were working on this, but because it's kind of like Black Ops, But Lefteris, and I think I can say Jordy and PS Dev, Jay Belina, who created delegated voting for the DAO, and PS Dev, who has also created some DAOs and was both very knowledgeable about this. We're able to gather, Lefteris, let me just say, incredible work yesterday and today, just coming up with attacks. I don't think he left his computer for 20 hours straight, just attacking the dedication. But we were able to recreate the attack and figure out what happened. And now we have things in place. And I don't want to exactly give away too much, because, of course, this is a very sensitive topic, and I don't want to say how we recreated the attack or what our plans are to prevent, to at least give a safety net in case more funds are taken from the DAO. But we do have plans in place that will hopefully safeguard the DAO from any further loss. Although the only way anything can be saved, as far as we can tell, is a hard fork. But we'll get there. So
when you say saving the DAO, you're talking about saving the ether behind the DAO, correct?
Yes. The DAO is broken. The DAO can't be saved. I don't see any reason for the DAO to try. The better thing to do would be to make a new DAO if someone wants to make a DAO. And I think that the lessons learned here for DAOs will forever make all DAOs after this so much better. And the future for DAOs is bright. I know that. And I think this will really help make sure that these kind of, very tragic things don't happen again. But
yes.
So as the day went on, while they're debating soft fork, hard fork, and a lot of people are weighing in on whether the validity of each option, we were able to recreate the attack. And actually, Alex Van de Sande, I want to give him a huge shout out, because he was very, very helpful in saying that he would help us on our Black Ops mission, and a few other people have been really stepping it up. But yeah, and so eventually we got to a point where we realized no matter what we do, I mean, we have some other cool attacks that we could do to even potentially attack the child DAO, the attack DAO, but none of it really is working out. And the only way forward that we can see, as the day went on, it just seemed more and more obvious, was the first instinct of Vitalik and all the brains in the Ethereum network, which is to hard fork the blockchain. And maybe I should go in. I feel like that was kind of the day. I will say that mostly what I was doing was just trying to communicate with everyone, take the information here, get it there, get the community, make sure everyone is like calm and curious. I mean, the Slack, we usually are so much better at eliminating profanity every time someone says anything. It was a tough day for that mission, to say the least.
Indeed, I'm
But
sure.
yeah, it was a really, it was pretty exciting. You know, it was pretty crazy, and it was kind of like war. It really felt like there was a bomb dropped, and it was time to act. And
Yes.
so yeah.
Well, I can tell you as a spectator, it was like a bomb got dropped. I mean, there
Yeah.
was lots and lots of people, here locally trying to figure out what's going on, which way is up. I have some DAO. What should I do? I have Ethereum. What's going to happen to Ethereum? I mean, it was a wild ride for everybody. I'm sure nothing compared to what you guys went through, but I can only imagine, how, the war room, so to speak, when you guys all got together and tried to figure out what was going and what were the best ways forward, knowing that the whole world was watching, waiting for more information. So kudos to you guys. I'm sure the last 24 hours couldn't have been easy. Well, we're going to try and make the most of it going forward and make it a learning moment for all of crypto. Hopefully this makes everything go better in the future, and we all will have learned from this. We've had tragedies in the past. Bitcoin's not immune from these kinds of massive implosions, seemingly existential threats to the entire system. And it's never as bad as you think it is, a month or two or a year later. But let's talk a little bit about what actually happened now, because I think a lot of people are so new to this space, they don't fully understand how a DAO or a child DAO could take control of funds and start asking the DAO to pay out, even having the DAO pay out without some sort of consensus going on. So what exactly happened? If you could just
I don't know
how.
Yeah, I can kind of describe it. I don't really want to go into the exact details because now we know exactly how it happened. But if I tell you that, then guess what? You guys might try to attack the DAO or anyone who sees this. So, but I can say that there was a kind of I don't want to call it a bug, but there's an issue in the Solidity protocol of how to use. There's two functions for sending. Not to get too technical. There's the call function and the send function. And when you use the call function, it allows you to call contracts and have basically unlimited gas. When you use the send function limits how much gas can be used. So certain times it's important to use the call function because this function might be used to call other contracts. And there is a certain protocol which changed about 2 weeks ago because this recursive call function bug was discovered. That actually MakerDAO also was able to attack their own DAO and save their funds. Kudos to those guys. For us, it was a lot more complicated because well, again, I shouldn't get too deep into it, but either way, basically they used this recursive call function exploit within a split DAO within a contract within a split DAO. And it was very, very extensive. No one's going to be able to recreate it unless they're a Solidity dev who's got a lot of experience, which is one thing. Who is this attacker? There's probably only like 500 people it could really be. So,
Right.
unless they're doing an independent study.
Yeah, I know that you had the code audited by the author of Solidity, right? The person that created the Solidity language.
Yeah.
audited this code before it went out. And
I wouldn't say that
presumably,
he audited it, but he is an advisor, and we've worked closely with him for years. I mean, Christoph and Lefteris and Christian are all really good buddies. So,
yeah.
yeah.
What will this do? What message does this send to potential contract developers? Do you think they'll be very shy to create their own contracts, wondering if they're writing code that could have a bug and could, money could disappear based on code that a new Solidity developer
I'll
creates?
tell you right now, we did not expect this contract to get that much money. Um, we thought it was an experiment. This is like the first real DAO. And some members of our team were physically ill when it was raising this much money. I was excited because I am not a security expert. Let me just say that. Nowhere near a security expert. And so I'm like, wow, we're doing such a great job. Our company is, killing it. This is amazing. Look at this. People love us. This is amazing. This feels really good. And so I was like surprised. Why? How can you be sad about this? It's like because it was such a honeypot. Because it was, we chose to go try to create a true decentralized autonomous organization. And one of the choices was to not have a cap, because we saw what happened to the Digix crowd sale. I mean, straight up, me personally, I wasn't sure if I was going to participate in the Digix crowd sale, but I never had the opportunity because it was over before I woke up. It lasted about 14 hours. I was in the West Coast. It just didn't work out for me. So then, we saw that, and a cap just didn't make any sense, because let's say we cap it at, especially considering how many funds were raised, if we would have capped it at 20 million, that could have been done in, 10, 20 minutes, or, and then is that a decentralized autonomous organization? I don't think so. There's could be someone with, 70% of the tokens just like that. So
Yes.
I think this will help make some design choices. Vitalik actually recommended that no smart contract should ever hold over $10 million. It's just too risky. I mean, this Ethereum is in the Homestead release phase. There's going to be a lot of, there have been already several interesting things that have happened in the Ethereum space, because it's such a versatile protocol that can do so many things, and yet it is completely run by a token of value. So I mean, that these two things really create so many opportunities for hacks and issues, that it's
Well,
to
some
create a
people have called
great
this
partnership.
a $150 million bug bounty, and
Yeah,
I can only imagine how that gives pause to a future developer.
yeah.
Someone who's got some grand idea. He
I
writes it.
mean,
Yeah,
that's the
you say a
same.
little.
That's the same with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is a $7 billion, or probably more now. It's at 10 billion now that it's gone up so much. I don't even know.
Mhm.
Haven't been following, obviously.
Yeah.
But right now it's probably a $10 billion bug bounty. That's gives it a lot of confidence. So that's a good thing. Actually, speaking of Bitcoin, I should get into the hard fork before we get too far and we lose all the viewers, because I could talk forever about everything. But
All
I
right.
want to talk about hard forks and soft forks and Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay.
So the way Bitcoin works is that there are these things called unspent transaction outputs. Let me just say, I have a master's degree in digital currencies. Okay. So this stuff is complicated, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's really easy. In Bitcoin, there are no such thing as a balance. The balance is kind of read off the blockchain, because you can, what do they call that, like a chain of custody. There's kind of a chain of custody that you can follow all the way through, from the origin of the Bitcoin all the way to the unspent transaction output, to verify that this is truly a coin that this guy holds and is a real Bitcoin. In Ethereum, it's very different. In Ethereum, there are balances. So instead of like a token contract, there's none of this like chasing coins as they get transferred. It's just a simple array. It says an address and it says the balance of that address. And when there's a transfer that happens, there's a line that says add token to this balance. And then it adds money. It adds money to the integer there in that array. And it's simple. It's just a database, like an Excel spreadsheet. You'd see like an address and a balance. And every time a token is transferred, it just changes this number in this Excel spreadsheet. So then when you do a hard fork in Bitcoin, you have to roll back every transaction and make sure that it goes all the way back. So, and then start from a new point. For Ethereum, it's very different. You don't have to do that at all. It's much more modular, and it gives the decentralized autonomous organization that is Ethereum the opportunity to make a change that doesn't affect everyone. So for this DAO, for this hard fork, it would be very possible to just to simply, and this is actually a plan that Gavin, Vitalik, and Christoph Jensch have all been working on together to like see if we do a hard fork, or at least if we want to give the miners and the community of Ethereum the opportunity to do a hard fork, we can actually change the bytecode for the DAO and replace that with another bytecode. So that would just be one solid state change. We change the DAO's bytecode, which is basically, the bytecode is kind of like all the machine numbers that represent the solidity code, the actual code that people can read. So if we change the bytecode to be just a simple contract that gives refunds, that's it. It's a really simple contract. And then we take all of the ether that was in child DAOs and transfer them to that contract. The people who deserve that money will be able to collect it. And that's all that would change. Every transaction, all the exchanges, none of that would have to be rolled back. Everything could stay the same. All we would have to do is basically what would end up happening is we end up stealing the money back from the attacker, putting it back in the DAO. We kill the DAO, and everyone gets their money back. It seems like a great opportunity. It seems like a real way that we can say as Ethereum, hey, we're not going to be thwarted by a block size debate. This is now the DAO debate, and are we going to do a hard fork to steal money from the attacker and give it back to the people who were attacked? And I, of course, talk to the DAO token holders every day. And no matter what I think about hard forks or my philosophical beliefs, I don't care, because I want to help my friends out. And I know the people that have lost so much money in this. And I really think that to allow the attacker to profit off of this attack would be when it's relatively easy to solve the problem without affecting the whole ecosystem, would be a huge mistake, and would just encourage attackers and hackers to continue to attack this. But if we can roll it back, roll back the whole existence of the DAO, and basically we could wipe that out, that would make attacking other smart contracts a lot less, especially the big ones like this, a lot less profitable, or it would disincentivize it.
Well, I've seen arguments that that this was an implementation where the documentation was the code itself, right? Mm-hmm. And this attacker found the fine print in the contract, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do anything that countermanded the actual code that was there. He didn't do like a Stack Overflow attack or some other vector of attack. He attacked the code that was actually written. So the DAO did perform as written, and the money did go.
All it can do.
Right. So it's a bit troubling for someone who wants to put their faith in the future contract. And also, do we lose faith in Ether as well if the community can roll back based on some sort of majority of the mining power? If they decide to roll back a decision, what does that say about the immutable nature or the consensus nature of the computing that's happening on the Ethereum network?
Personally, I actually think it'd be a huge boom to the consensus power of the Ethereum network, because this, of course, would not be, obviously, hey, if Slockit had the power, or if the DAO token holders had the power, it would be done already. We would have fixed it, and we would have done this, but it's not our decision. We are not the miners. We are not the people who have control of the ecosystem and which dApps are pointing to, there's a debate on how much even the miners need to agree to this, because the ecosystem is a very broad topic. All the exchanges and all the things. If there was a hard fork, if the hard fork option, when the hard fork option is created, because it seems that Gavin and Christoph and a few other, and Vitalik and well, I don't know. Vitalik is kind of a middleman. He just wants there to be a good consensus, I think. I haven't gotten to personally talk to him other than Skype, right? But just chatting. But
well, Vitalik said Ethereum itself is perfectly safe.
Yes.
Right. He said that in his blog post. Ethereum itself is perfectly safe. Yeah. But is the trust in Ethereum safe? Is the integrity?
This is what I'm saying is that the consent. This is a proof of work protocol, and the consensus is everything. And if there is a consensus to do anything with the network, but it can only be done with consensus. So if the miners say, hey, there was 14% of the ether involved in here, we are DAO token holders, or 4% of the ether went to this attacker, and do we want to incentivize this attacker? If the miners decide that it would be better for the Ethereum protocol, the miners, the exchanges, the people who create dApps, if they all decide that it'd be better for the Ethereum protocol to attack the attacker and give the funds back to the DAO token holders, then awesome. If not, awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What kind of a consensus do you need? How many miners have to agree to run this patch that you're talking about?
This is very debatable, because if a hard fork happens, you could see there being two tokens, the Ether token, two Ether tokens effectively. And there would be the ability for, let's say 30% of the miners support the hard fork and 70% don't. Well, if every person who wants to use Ethereum says we prefer the hard fork chain, then those miners are mining worthless tokens, because there's no exchanges that are using them. There's no dApps that are using them. This is Vlad Zamir's argument to me, because I'm from the Bitcoin space, so I'm like, no, miners have complete control over everything. On Ethereum, that's a little bit different, because the actual value of the network is not the token itself. It is the value of the network. It is the network of developers and exchanges and all the things that you can do with Ethereum. And so there would be two Ethereums, and the ones that people want to use would probably be the one that wins out. Although, of course, it's going to need miners. But if the token everyone is using has a low mining thing, people will switch, because they want to sell tokens that people want to use. So the miners are important, and they will. I think the miners will probably end up being the ones that make the end decision. But it's really, we're in a new frontier here. This is Ethereum, not Bitcoin. So we have to remember that there's a lot of going on.
Indeed. So, do you have a view on how this will unfold? Have you contacted the mining community, and do you have a view on whether they will go for this or not?
There is a debate. What is really interesting is that no one is debating a soft fork. Well, I shouldn't even say that. There are, of course, a couple people that don't like the soft fork idea, which I haven't talked about yet. Right now, there is a Parity client already. Gavin has already created a soft fork, and so I believe Jeffrey is working on the Geth one. And it's going to take a couple days to do all the bug testing and everything. But we want to create a soft fork that will at least stop any DAOs from leaking money. So basically, stop the DAOs. No more DAOs that use this bytecode can move their funds around. The Ether will be locked. And that would be the first step towards a hard fork. So if we lock everyone's money in the DAOs, which they're already locked for at least 27 days, because in every DAO that has ever split off of the DAO, all of that Ether is still contained in DAOs. It has not been able to go into the ecosystem. So, and that's an important part about this whole hard fork idea. Every ether that was ever used to create DAO tokens is still stuck in a DAO. It has not hit exchanges. So we have an opportunity to stop, to like kind of play with it and massage it so that everyone is made whole again. The exact details, of course, that's going to take some coding. There's child DAO tokens that have to be able to redeem their ether. There's you know, how are we going to do the snapshot, the trades? There's a lot of questions still, but these are all very solvable. And you know, there might even be, we'll see exactly how it develops. But I do believe that because right when this happened, it was almost unanimous. Everyone wanted a hard fork. Just undo it. It just made sense, you know, because it was possible. Right now, that we don't have to make that decision now. We only have to make the decision of a soft fork as soon as possible to prevent to prevent ether that is in DAOs from ever moving, and then we can think about the hard fork. And I like I like an approach of calm and curious, asking questions and having a friendly debate between people who are all on the same team. We all want Ethereum to succeed. And whatever is decided via consensus, I personally will support. But I'll tell you right now, I'm firmly in the hard fork camp because, you know, I talk to DAO token holders all day.
Yes. And do you have any idea what the people who are opposed to a hard fork, where they're coming from?
Yeah, the real issue is this is not a problem with the EVM. The Ethereum virtual machine. The
Yes.
Ethereum is a computer. You know, in other hard forks, it was a clear issue with the EVM had a bug, and so yeah, we need a hard fork because otherwise there's no other way to fix it. The thing here is we can just allow the hacker to take his money. He, like you said, he wasn't breaking any rules technically. He was following the rules of the contract. And the problem is, you know, if you write a contract in any legal jurisdiction that says kill this guy, a contract should be invalidated. So because it's not nice. And so I personally am not. I don't really see the validity of that argument. Yes, he followed the contract, and by following that contract, he robbed 10,000 people of funds that they felt were secure. So that's not cool.
Right. Well, but the idea behind smart contracts is that it's an indifferent mechanism that's not susceptible to intervention by you know, some small subset of developers or miners or somebody that could be captured, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's not. It has to be. It's going to have to happen through a consensus, right? So this is the proof of work. When we get out of proof of work, I mean, this is the whole thing. Ethereum is in Homestead. We have two more phases, Metropolis and Serenity, right? And so we're looking for proof of stake and sharding, which will make a lot of this stuff impossible. But we're just not there yet. The Ethereum network is still evolving, and this will be an interesting debate. And I think the block size debate, very traumatic issue for Bitcoin, and I hope that this debate is not the same for Ethereum. But we'll see. You know, I don't think that there is a right answer. There is not a right answer for any of this stuff. We're building the right answer together. And what do we want Ethereum to be? Do we want Ethereum to be the decentralized, monetary, you know, dependable network that everyone is, you know, relying on to be provably fair? I mean, I think that's Bitcoin. And Ethereum is still developing what it wants to be. And if it wants to be a smart contract platform, then we'll see. We'll see what decision it makes and how it wants to structure its smart contracts.
So how will this consensus be reached? How, like, you said that we've got 27 days to figure this out. Is it
Yeah.
just a matter of miners running this patch? Is that how it?
Yeah, I mean,
And if
that's
enough
pretty
do it,
much it. If enough do it and enough, it's going to be kind of like the idea of the block size change hard forks, right? So the exact details, I'm not the guy coding it up. You know, if you want to, maybe next time we should go get Gavin on the phone. We're
carry me
going.
over my head.
Yeah, exactly. I can talk to normal people because I am a normal person, and and so exactly how it's going to go, I mean, there's 1,000 different ways, but it could be as simple as, hey, at this block, anyone who's running this thing, there's going to be a state change in the Ethereum network that says this DAO is now different, and anyone can go get their money now. And then it just moves on, and then the people who support that, and maybe they'll find a consensus mechanism like a lot of the Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin, all those other Bitcoin changes where, oh yeah, if it has 70% of the mining consensus, then this becomes true. If not, it stays false. It could
Is it
be as simple as that.
is it safe to say that this thing will be resolved within the 27 days? We will know which way it will go within the next 3 weeks or so.
I mean, the thing is with the soft fork, it doesn't have to, because the soft fork would prevent any tokens from being moved out of DAOs forever. So until the soft fork is a temporary fix. It's a temporary thing to, at least this is how it's being proposed. It's a temporary thing to just give us time to really analyze and figure out what is best for Ethereum, and then we can go from there. And
So that needs to happen first, and then the hard fork comes later.
yeah, and the hard fork can be, I mean, if the hard fork could be implemented within the 27 days, which is really it's probably really 41 days technically, because it takes, once the DAO is free to make decisions after its creation phase, then still has to before it can move money. So like, let's say that attacker DAO, it's now been 26, it's been 1 day in its creation phase. That attacker DAO has 26 more days before it can do anything. And then on that first day, it can make a proposal to send 3.5 million Ether to somebody's address. And anyone in that DAO would have to vote for it, but there's a 2-week debating period. And then the money could move out. So technically, it's 40 days now that the attacker, we have time to, without a soft fork, to just do with a hard fork solution. But doing a soft fork solves some other issues that are more technical. So it would just, it's kind of a good idea. Well, and one issue it solves is if the DAO gets attacked again, it would stop that. So
what do you have any advice for Ethereum holders or miners, or people participating in the Ethereum ecosystem, and two, holders of the DAO tokens? Is there anything to do right now?
You know, I was giving advice on the Slack. I mean, kind of advice, at least trying to keep people updated on what's going on the best I could, because there was a lot going on.
Yes.
But I was told many times on the Slack not to give investment advice because I might get sued. And it's like, oh God, okay. But the best advice I can do is to study your situation and do what you think is best. I mean, the end all be all, I don't see this being resolved in the next 2 weeks. And so you have to take that into consideration, and, you know, just keep informed, get on our Slack, ask questions, stay calm and curious. That's been I've been echoing that, because sometimes, you know, when money's involved, people get really riled up, and
Yes.
it's just not productive. You know, I really hope that people can have a calm and curious debate, not attacking people, saying their mom is whatever, you know, like that just doesn't help anything. Staying on topic, figuring out what's best for you as an individual, figure out what's best, what you think is best for the Ethereum community as a whole, and then vote with your, you know, with your tokens effectively. Because
Okay.
this is the thing, you know, we created the DAO, and that's the first DAO of its kind. But Ethereum is also a DAO. Bitcoin is a DAO, and if these DAOs decide to reach consensus in their own way, then things will happen. And
Okay.
everyone who is in the Ethereum network uh, has their own stake in Ethereum, and they get to vote.
Okay. Okay. So DAO holders, even though we've established that the DAO is dead, there's still the matter of DAO tokens that people have
Yeah.
control over, that they will have to make decisions about going forward over the next 27, 41 days, however much time it ends up being. Is there some sort of default action that will happen? Like, will Ether revert back to the original address, or will there undoubtedly be
It's unknown. It's unknown. Like, exactly, if you hold DAO tokens, then you should watch the debate closely on the hard fork opportunities, because I will at least say your options. You can split the DAO and get your portion of Ether back that is still in the DAO. You can hold your DAO tokens. You can trade your DAO, and just wait to see what happens with the hard fork, and see if they're going to undo it. And anyone who holds DAO tokens at that time potentially could get the full amount of DAO, full amount of their Ether. I mean, the hard fork is going to determine a lot of this, like what is the best to do with DAO tokens. It's hard to speculate on that. I'm sure that's what these markets are for. So you can always trade your DAO tokens. And luckily, these prediction markets that we call cryptocurrency markets, they will kind of tell you, is it likely to get a hard fork or not? Are the DAO tokens of value right now or not? I really don't know. Yeah.
So what's the best source of information for the DAO holder to? Is it the Slack channel? Is it the DAO hub? Where should people be getting their information with regard to making these decisions?
DAOhub.org is a great place. The Slack, the DAO Slack is a great place. Our blog, blog.slock.it is an excellent place for information. We've been working for free for the last year, it feels like, since September, at least I've been on the team. And this is important to us. We're gonna keep working on it. And hopefully a good outcome comes out where the attacker doesn't profit from this, and everyone who wanted to change the world by participating in a revolutionary DAO gets their money back. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm still holding out for it, but we'll see.
Well, we will see, and hopefully the entire ecosystem will be older and wiser, maybe a little grayer as a consequence of all this thing. But like with Bitcoin, every problem that arises creates more strength after the fact, and hopefully that will be the case. I mean, I think the idea of a distributed autonomous organization has not died today, right?
No.
And these things will live on, and the next DAO will solve these problems and maybe encounter a new problem, right? But, that's how it works right now. We are in the Wild West, and these things happen.
Yeah, and one of the problems that I hope people get to see with this DAO and its evolution, and one of the biggest things that I learned in this project, I definitely want to impart, is that the culture is almost as important as the code. Having everyone's roles identified, what people do what. I mean, the code, of course, is incredibly important, but nothing can work in a decentralized organization unless people know their roles and what they're supposed to do, and how and communication channels are built up, and forums are built up. And we were hoping that the DAO could do a lot of this work on its own, and that we would write the code and we could step back and let the DAO be as autonomous as possible. But one of the things, I think that DAOs need a little bit of a guidance into the culture more than we were choosing to provide. And so, what do the curators do? What do DAO token holders do? How do we vote? How do we do all this stuff? I think that was a major learning lesson. That, of course, of the multitude of lessons learned in this project, I really hope that culture becomes an important consideration for the future DAOs.
Well, it's interesting. When this thing went wrong, it reminded me of, days past when things went wrong with Bitcoin, and the community does come together. I know you're talking about the culture of the actual development team and how they split their responsibilities and how they collaborate in a crisis like this, but also the entire community kind of, that you can't really defer to the authorities. I mean, try and chase this guy who created the dark DAO with a and a regular legal system, and you'd probably be quite challenged. So it really is up to the community to come to the aid, to work together, to collaborate. I know there's a lot of foul language, a lot of flame wars, and a lot of strong
Yeah.
opinions, but it does seem to me that the community rallies and solves its own problems, which is a fantastic thing to see. And
Yeah,
yeah, this is a
I
case in
I
point.
can't echo that enough. I really have been I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm scrolling through. It's like I've been working on this since 5 a.m. I finally finished it. Here's what I think happened, and then I mean, so many people are dedicating their time. There's so many blog posts, so many Reddit posts of individuals that are looking at the code and really trying to figure out what happened, and other people that are trying to help them in certain ways. I mean, little organizations are forming, that are publishing blog posts collaboratively. I mean, it's really amazing how in any kind of tragedy, a lot of people will get together, and even if they don't like each other, or something, for when there's something to work on together, people really collaborate and help each other out. There's flame wars and some people that they're not trying to help, but I've been completely impressed by especially the community that's been in the Slack for a couple months. That really already, they did the DAO Ninja trading, and they did, they are forming organizations to make proposals to the DAO later, and they have been working with the community and organizing DAOhub.org. And I mean, Felix, Oren, Taylor, so many, Dan, and there's just so many people. I shouldn't even name any of them because there's so many that have really stepped up. The Slack has been incredible. So
Mhm.
yeah, thank you guys. I just want to say thank you guys so much. You guys are a pleasure to work with.
Yes. And do you feel like there's any chance that people will hold this whole thing against you personally, or give you a hard time in the future or your next project? Do you see that at all?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I hope not, obviously.
Mhm.
It's important that people like me. But I
Well,
don't know. I think that there's two ways to look at it. You could say, oh man, these guys were part of a project that really failed, and I don't know if I want to associate with them. Or
mhm,
you could see it as, wow, those guys have been through war and they're battle
mhm,
tested. I think they're gonna, I mean, if they audit a smart contract, they're probably going to take it seriously.
mhm,
So we'll see. We have really been putting Slockit on the back burner and just looking at the DAO and trying to, as been kind of the story of the last 8 months.
mhm.
We're just looking at the DAO, what happens to Slockit, and how we move forward. That'll be next week.
I see. So what will happen with Slockit? How does Slockit fit into this? I mean, obviously the DAO has failed, and the Slockit is still an entity that can submit its proposal to the next DAO or get funding in some other way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I obviously, anyone who's watched me talk, all I care about is universal sharing network and bringing an access-based economy. That's all I want to do, and I know that this team is the team to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we definitely need a DAO to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see the path forward. I mean, we want to build the Ethereum computer. We've had it ready for almost a year now. So we'll see. Like I said, how does Slockit move forward? That's next week. We just don't have the time right now. We're trying to figure about hard forks and try to get as much information. Just at least me, I'm
One
trying to get
step
as
at a
much
time.
information stuff. Yeah, put out there, and haven't even really had time to think, what does Slockit do? I mean,
Yes, yes.
we've had clients that we've been turning down forever. Probably we'll start taking some of them because
Mhm.
we'll see.
Well, I know you to be a sincere person, and that goes a long way, I think, in this space where lots of people are, trying to make a quick buck, or maybe gaming systems. I mean, who knows what the motivations were for this person who created the dark DAO?
Yeah.
And for me, sincerity trumps everything. There's people that are trying to make the world better, and they're swimming in shark-infested waters, right? I mean, you create something. And it's got to survive in the wild, wild west that is crypto, and it's a dangerous world out there.
Yeah.
But we need the good guys to keep on trucking, to keep on trying to keep on making the world a better place, or at least trying to do that. And yeah, I can only I empathize with how difficult these last 24 hours must have been for you and for the entire team.
Absolutely, it's been tough.
I know you've got Uma making you cookies and taking care of you guys. But,
let me just show you. She just made me lunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A little soup. I mean, it's hard for me to show you because I would spill it.
I see. Well, that's
every morning I go to the office downstairs, which is her husband's office, who just happens to be out of town, and then there's just breakfast waiting for me. I mean, it's just the Uma of Umas. I'm telling you.
Well, and I imagine that maybe you guys are ready to go to sleep for 8 or 12 hours and gather your energy to live to fight another day in the ruthless world of crypto. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought one day I'd take a couple days off maybe, but I don't know if that's ever gonna. I mean, this whole team, I think we're so short on sleep for the last, at least the last 3 months or 2 months. Wow. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Well,
I know that all the people that are holding DAO tokens and that are interested in seeing Ethereum succeed, they're pulling for you and pulling for you guys. Yeah. And
I want to say a lot of people have said, hey, I have 1 million DAO tokens. I will donate it to you to just help out. And it's just, I mean, people will call in and saying, hey, I'm in the split DAO. I have this much money in it. I can do this or that, whatever you want. And it's just amazing. Everyone seems to be geared towards what is best for Ethereum. And I can't wait to see what we figure out.
Okay. Well, is there anything more that you want to leave people with that you feel like people should know about what has happened, what needs to happen, what's going to happen going forward? Is there anything left to say here?
I mean, I guess the biggest thing is thank you, Gary, for giving me a place to talk to people. That's always great. Get to Bali and go hang out with Gary. But other than that, that's pretty much. I mean, that was the best 2 months. That was a very lucky 2 months for me to get to hang out in Bitcoins in Bali. It's the only place I've ever been where, cryptocurrencies are a weekly gathering, and it's going to happen no matter what. So that's something. But other than that, I feel like we covered it. I mean, I have a clear agenda here. I want to tell people that the hard fork's not a big deal. Let's not let the attacker, run off with the funds. I'm not going to mince words about it. I'm here speaking for DAO token holders, saying I think that hard forks will help the Ethereum protocol and help the people who support this network. But because it's not as big as Bitcoin, it's not as big of a deal as Bitcoin. But we'll see.
It's still early days, and it's not the end of the world. This too shall pass.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, Griff, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for making some time to explain this stuff. Thanks for giving us the play-by-play and sharing some of the behind the scenes. We really appreciate the access you've given us just now to talk frankly about everything that's going on. Thank you very much. And let's reconvene when it makes sense to find out what's going on next time around.
It's always a pleasure, Gary. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Until next time, Griff. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. See you around, man.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.